All right. That was a groovy intro there. Welcome to the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. Joining me is not Israel Troupe tonight. He is still under the weather we have just started school and all the kids brought the germs. But joining me to fill in his place so I didn't have to go solo tonight is Matthew Perkins and Josh Cook. They come over from Illegal Motion to join me here to give you all the Bulldogs content. So, gents, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me.
It's an honor to be back on the pod. Last time I was here, I was with Ryan Seymour, and Israel was in a duck blind somewhere, or not a duck blind. He was just in a tree stand or something like that.
He was hunting hogs. Service. He was going hog hunting in Adale, Georgia. So,
and Coach, I've never been on, so I believe the Southern thing to do when it's your first time being on something is to go long time, first time, Coach.
First time, long time. Yeah. You got to bring a housewarming gift too. You got to bring a hostess gift. So it's
okay,
all good.
There we go.
We are presented by Betonline.ag, your number one sports betting site. If you want to bet on something in sports, any sport, Betonline.ag has it for you. Live betting, props, odds, futures, all kind of things. As if you want, head over to Betonline.ag. They also have a casino. So for Josh, your Caribbean stud poker addiction, they have it there readily available for you. You just have to visit the website on one of your devices and enter that promo code BELIEVE.
Now, I just play Iowa unders.
There you go. That's like free money. And
I mean, it's so good. The team themselves are endorsing it.
I know, yeah,
tacitly.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's free money. So you might as well play it, but go to betonline.ag to play it. So enter the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Betonline.ag, it's where the game starts. Guys, well, fall camp is raging on, as you can see in the title. It's raging on. We're getting closer and closer and closer to the season. Lots of storylines in Georgia. Most notably, the quarterback one battle, which is not really a battle. It's Carson Beck. It's going to be Carson Beck all the way. It's going to be, how does Mike Bobo fare with all these weapons? How is he going to incorporate Brock Bowers in Brock Bowers' final season as a Bulldog? How are they going to replace all that NFL talent? That's a question that gets seemingly asked every single year. So a lot of storylines in camp, a lot of people impressing with a lot of their performances, guys. I know the SEC and the University of Georgia is not on the forefront of your minds, but what questions do you have for? We can treat this like a live mailbag.
Yeah. I know mine.
Go ahead, John.
So those of you that listen to the Illegal Motion podcast we do, I was probably the biggest Stetson Bennett supporter outside of the state of Georgia. I was like, why would you move on from him? Yeah, he might not be the most talented, but he wins freaking every game, and he won you 2 titles. So I was a big guy on him. Coach, should I be as big on Carson Beck? Like, what's the story with him?
Well, Carson Beck, dude, like if you watched him in the spring, which
I would not have,
but you would not have. But if you watched him in any of his mop-up duty, which you probably wouldn't have either, but he has a lot of poise in the pocket. I think he is very, very comfortable with the system. He knows the checks. He knows the reads. He's very decisive. He's very athletic for being as long and lanky as he is. I mean, he just has some it factor that obviously there's not many people that have an it factor like Stetson Bennett had, but I think Carson Beck does have that and does have those leadership qualities that kind of allowed him to just grab this job by the horns and take it and run with it.
All right. Well, my biggest question was, it's been a long run of dominant defensive tackles. Jordan Davis begets Jalen Carter, and that was supposed to beget Bear Alexander. Bear Alexander transferring to USC was a little bit of a shock for me. Now it seems like he got NIL out the wazoo.
He said it wasn't NIL, but it was. It was. He said it wasn't, but it was.
I mean, like, if you're going to lie to me, like, be a little bit more creative. But so who's the next dude then on the interior of the defensive line? Because that is, the heart of what has made those Georgia defenses so good has been guys on the inside who are really disruptive and then letting those linebackers be able to just run free because those guys have to be double teamed on every single play.
Yeah, no doubt. That's going to be a little bit tougher of a task this upcoming season because there's not that one superstar. I think they're going to do it in the aggregate with Warren Brinson, with Nazir Stackhouse, Zion Logue. I think they're going to get a lot of mileage out of Mykell Williams if he can stay healthy. But I mean, you're just going to have a lot of big time role players that just do their job and do it exceptionally well. I don't think you're going to have a Jalen Carter. I don't think any of these guys are going to get drafted early, if at all. But they are going to play key roles in this defense, and they are going to help our inside linebackers, Jamon Dumas Johnson and Smell London, do their jobs and do them well.
Well, then building off of that, where's the pass rush going to come from without Nolan Smith?
Mykell Williams.
Mykell Williams.
Yeah,
can he do that? Does he have the ability to do that?
He does. He has a great burst. If you watched him in the Peach Bowl, he had I think 2 key sacks on CJ Stroud. Just shot out of a cannon. He was overshadowed early in the year with Nolan Smith, but when Nolan Smith went down with that shoulder injury, he really stepped up. He only had 4.5 sacks, so on the stat sheet it doesn't look that impressive. But when he started getting more and more playing time, you saw just how explosive Mykell Williams is. And that really showed in key moments in the Peach Bowl when we needed a big time sack or a big time play from an edge player. Mykell Williams was the guy on the scene.
Coach, I got a question that might stump you. I don't know. Very few things stump you, but for your listeners, they probably don't know. I'm an Iowa person. I'm an Iowa fan. Iowa has had a long history of some really good kickers. And if there was an interesting thing about Georgia last year, your kicker who graduated, not the longest of legs. He went just 3 of 8 from 40 or longer last year.
Jack Podlesny. Well, he's never. Yeah. I mean, we were always giving him good chip shots anyway. So,
well, but he's gone. He graduated. Yeah. Their returning kicker, Jared Zirkle, 1 career attempt field goal. He had 1 chip shot.
That's good. That's going to be a tough go there.
That's it. That's
it, man. We're rolling the dice there.
All right, you're just rolling the dice. All right,
we're rolling the dice, man. I don't like.
Okay, so then give us a Georgia special teams preview, then, Coach. It can make or break a team without an experienced quarterback.
I mean, it really can. I mean, I think punting's going to be good. I mean, you look at what we did against Tennessee with that 75. No, it was an 82-yard punt or something like that. I think that's something to look at. Kicking wise, we just don't know.
Hot Rod is not walking through that door.
Hot Rod ain't walking through that door. Hot Pod is not walking through that door. So, as far as making a big field goal, we won't know until it's time. Unfortunately, we won't know.
So over on MikeFarrellSports.com, I will give that a plug, where I'm the editor-in-chief. We've been running a bunch of different series, Mike and I have, and we've been breaking down position groups all across, in every conference. And going through all of these position groups, I think it can be pretty well set in stone that Georgia has the best defensive backfield, not just in the SEC, but in the country. And I would go, I would bet some money on that. After the defensive backfield, Coach, what rank the position groups strongest to weakest? Strongest to weakest.
Okay. So you aforementioned defensive back room. I think the offensive line is tremendous. They have 3 guys on the Outland Trophy watch list on that starting front.
Amarius Mims for the Remington.
And the favorite for the Remington, and Sedrick Van Pran. And they also have Tate Ratledge, who finally is healthy at the guard position in that list. So I think
mover. My God.
Oh, dude is a beast, man. So I think even with the departure of Warren McClendon and Broderick Jones, I still think you have a really strong unit there. I think the running backs are very, very strong with Branson Robinson as your number. Branson Robinson at best is probably your number 3 guy. He would start in most of the teams. He could probably start everywhere in the ACC or any other team in the country. I mean, that dude is a brick
outside of
brick
Clemson.
house. Yeah, outside of Clemson, probably. Actually, no, I would put him against Will Shipley any day. But you have, when healthy, you have a really, really good running back room. Kendall Milton heading that off as well. So the quarterbacks, I think, not proven, but I think there's a lot of talent there. I think the QB2 job is going to be just as important of a battle as a QB1 job because, God forbid something happened to Carson Beck. I think it's going to be Gunnar Stockton. Personally, I think he's going to end up winning the backup job. I just think he gives you more dynamic play than Brock Vandagriff. I think Gunnar Stockton does give you actually more in the run game, in the quarterback planned run game.
You think if that happens, Vandagriff's going to transfer then?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably. If he gets beat out by Stockton
because Raiola's
younger and Donovan Raiola's coming in. And
it's just, it is what it is. He might actually transfer to Tech, to be honest with you, to go play for Buster. But I think because I think Vandagriff and Buster had a really good relationship. So I really like the quarterbacks. I think the inside linebacking core is very strong. Your top two guys, Smell London and Jermaine Dumas Johnson, are two of the best in the country, and they have some 5-star depth behind them. I like the wide receivers a lot. When you add Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett, I think you get I think you add two really dynamic pieces to a pretty strong group. It was a good group, and you add those two. Now it's a great receiver room. I think you have a lot of talent there. Ladd McConkey, obviously. You have Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint, and then you have some guys that have some talent, but you just haven't seen them a whole lot because they're young and they've been buried behind A.D. Mitchell and those guys. So that's Jackson Meeks, Dylan Bell, and even Denalon Morissette, and then some of these freshmen coming in, 4-star guys from Florida are outstanding. So that room's going to be really competitive. I didn't mention the tight end room. It is very strong as well. I should have mentioned them earlier. But Brock Bowers just by himself makes that room really strong. But you have Oscar Delp, who's kind of like a slightly lesser version of Brock Bowers, which is not a shot, but he's like Brock Bowers is one of the best tight ends in college football. Lawson Lucky, I think, being a third guy is really, really strong there. I think your weakest position group is that defensive line because although there's some talent there, there's no superstar. There's nobody that you're just like, okay, we've got to figure out a game plan for Nazir Stackhouse. Okay, we've got to figure out a game plan for Warren Brinson. Not saying that no one can develop from that list, but just looking at it and the star power behind that list, it's just not there. But they're really solid, and they do their jobs really effectively. But again, star power just is just not there.
Little trivia for you guys. A lot of teams have claimed
1947
national titles. A lot of teams have claimed 3 national titles in a row, but only one has officially 3 AP number 1 finishes in a row. Anyone know that team?
Yes.
What is it?
It's Minnesota 34-36.
Yeah, there we go. So with that in mind, Coach, obviously a three-peat is dang near impossible.
It's very much in our reach. I think with this offense as explosive it is, it's very much in our reach. So you look at who is going to be challenging you for that. Obviously within your own conference, Tennessee, Alabama, and LSU are probably the 3 teams that are just going to contend the most for that. And I think LSU is going to repeat as West champions, as the final West champions. I really think that's a good possibility. So, you've got to win a tough SEC championship matchup with them. I think you look outside, let's hypothetical playoff. I don't think Florida State can beat Georgia. I don't know that they have anybody that can match up with Brock Bowers. I don't know that they have anybody that can match up in the slot with Dominic Lovett and Ladd McConkey. I don't think that this will be obviously the best secondary they've seen all year with Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, and Malachi Starks. and then you add some other 5-star talented guys out there, that's going to be a tough go for them. So Florida State, can they beat them? Probably not. I don't know that Michigan matches up well with Georgia. What Michigan does really well, Georgia also does really well on the opposite end of it. So I don't know that they match up very well. Ohio State's depleted. I don't even think they're going to make it I don't think they're going to make it to the playoff anyway, but I just don't think they can contend. I don't see a team out there.
Could USC win like a crazy track race?
No, I don't think so. I think the team that could get them the most is probably Michigan. I think that's the team that has the best shot.
If Clemson figured out an offense,
they have to figure out an offense.
I think Florida State has a better shot than Clemson does. I think Florida State has a better shot on both sides of the ball. And you're talking about the strength of the Bulldogs defensive backfield. Well, Florida State's wide receiver room and tight ends are pretty dang good.
I think if you had where Florida State, I think lacks is depth, quality depth. I think that's where they'll get in trouble. I think that's where Ohio State got in trouble. And I think that game would probably play out a lot like the Ohio State game because they are explosive, and Georgia kind of struggled with that in the Peach Bowl. I think Ohio State won the game for 3 quarters, but didn't win the most important quarter and when it mattered. And they just didn't have an answer for when. I mean, they were a one-trick pony with Marvin Harrison Jr. When he went out, well, they didn't have anything behind it. Like, it's football. Guess what happens? Injuries. Guess what happens? People hit. People hit in the SEC. Like, that was a clean, legal hit.
It was.
I would have said the same thing. Like, it was a clean, legal hit. They overturned it. They reviewed it. It was a clean,
every angle
hit.
of it, and it was. And so
he was pulling his head out of the way like that. Like, he was trying to, without decapitating himself, like, I think that would have been the only way he could have got his head further out of the way.
So building off of that, though, what is the thinnest position then at the roster? So, or who is the one player that the Dogs cannot afford to lose?
We already covered it. Their kicker, man. Their kicker's going to blow them a game, maybe.
Is it Brock Bowers? Is it someone else?
Brock Bowers is pretty freaking important. If he goes down, that's a pretty key piece. But I think there's enough receivers, and I think Oscar Delp is good enough to they just reshape things. Mm-hmm. So, it'd be a hell of a blow if Brock Bowers went down. Don't get me wrong, but I think they could recover there. I think the guy is Mykell Williams. You lose Mykell Williams, it's a bunch of freshmen.
Well, that was good. That actually leads me to my next question.
Damon Wilson probably.
Which true freshmen are going to see the most snaps this year?
Damon Wilson at outside linebacker, probably. He's one. I think.
Who's the other edge rusher they got from IMG?
Oh God, I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't remember his name. I got to learn the freshman. I've got to learn the freshman. So let me get that for you. That's
take my approach to freshman, coach. Don't learn any of their names until they finally do something.
That's the spirit.
Samuel Mpemba was the name I was looking for.
Yes, right. Samuel Mpemba. Yes. Samuel Mpemba from IMG. Yeah, I think he's gonna get some time as well. I think you're gonna have. I think one of those freshman defensive linemen are gonna get in the mix too. Probably, maybe. Jordan Hall. I think. I don't know. Will Hadaway is going to get some action at place kicker. He's going to push Jared Zirkle. No, in all seriousness.
Okay, then one other question then going along with that. Let's talk transfers then. Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, 2 notable incoming wide receivers. Lovett obviously I think has a little bit more ballyhoo coming in. He was really productive at Mizzou last year, but Ra Thomas comes from a more wide open system from the Leach system at Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little bit more of a transition for him, I think. But which one of those 2 do you think will be able to slot in and fit and be productive early?
Dominic Lovett. I think he does more. I think he's somebody that can run jet sweeps. I think he's really good in the slot. I think if you go with like a 10 personnel set and you have him and Ladd McConkey patrolling the inside, I think that's extremely dangerous. I think you finally have a solid jet, like I said before, I think you have a solid jet sweep guy, which really makes things different, what really opens up things for Ladd McConkey off play action, stuff like that, because now Ladd McConkey doesn't have to run those jet sweeps or even those jet motions and things like that. Screen game, fast screen game with Lovett, I think is going to be really good. He's like very bouncy, very shifty, very like he's like a coiled up spring running around the field. It's going to be fun to watch him, because he can do so much. And I think having guys around him will protect him a little better, because at Missouri, he really didn't have that. So teams keyed in on him, and he really, he could have had way more than 800 yards if Missouri had even one other playmaker.
Well, I think you could argue they had Luther Burden, but Luther Burden was a true freshman.
He's a true freshman.
Yeah, so I wonder, though, if Ra Thomas pushes Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint to be like the true X. I
think he can. I think he absolutely can. I mean, I think once he gets settled in, I think he had a rough transition in the spring. Talking about Ra Thomas, I think he can push Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint, because although Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint, you saw some of the catches he made throughout the season. He's very, very athletic and jump.
But he disappears at times. Like, you forget he's on the field.
Does. I know, he really does. And that's concerning. And I think that's why they went out and brought in these two transfer receivers, because they needed some star power. Like, you lose AD Mitchell, who make clutch catch after clutch catch after clutch catch. I think Ra Thomas is another dynamic guy that once he finally gets kind of settled in and kind of sheds a little bit of that air raid off of him, I think he's going to be really, really special. But he's going to be one of those that, third, fourth game, you'll start to see him more, and then he'll pop and you'll be like, wow, okay, didn't know that was going to happen, was hoping that was going to happen, but I'm glad it's here. Like, it's going to be a little bit later, probably.
I had one final question for you, Coach. So you mentioned you've got LSU winning the West for that SEC title game. Who do you want Alabama, or who do you want Georgia to face, like, matchup wise? Like, who of the Western contenders, who gives you the most, like,
the star power
matchup?
Yeah, the most favorable matchup would be Alabama.
Yeah, that's why
I think the most favorable, because their quarterback situation is up in the air right now. Like, I don't
TBD.
know. Like, can Jalen Milroe function as a quarterback, or is he just a running back there? Can Ty Simpson stay healthy? Is he even dynamic enough? Is he good enough? And then Tyler Buchner, like, that was a head scratcher. Like, that was a pure Tommy Rees bringing in. Saban was like, Tommy Rees, you get one transfer, and he picked Buchner. What?
Yeah, out of all the open quarterback spots basically in the country, and all the quarterbacks that transferred to other jobs, better jobs, different jobs, that Tyler Buchner was the one that came to Alabama. It was, yes, you understand, like, Reese and him work together, but Reese didn't even make him the starter at Notre Dame.
No.
Come on now. Like, what?
And he couldn't hold on to it even with injury. Like, sometimes, if you're good enough and you're not quite good enough at the time, but you're good enough and you get an opportunity, a lot of guys like seize that opportunity, like Tua Tagovailoa. But Buchner couldn't do that. Like, I just don't understand it. I don't think he'll ever play, and they have some issues there. And I think they've whiffed on a few receiver recruits and stuff too. Like, they've whiffed on that position a little bit.
So we're in agreement, Alabama would be the easiest matchup then?
Well, out of the two, yeah, because Jaden Daniels, hell, even Nussmeier, the backup at LSU, was freaking slinging it, man. Like, they've got two good quarterbacks, and Brian Kelly's got something going on down there.
I think there's a chance that LSU has 2 better quarterbacks than Alabama, and Ole Miss has 3 better than Alabama.
Ole Miss is. I joke with Steve all the time. Ole Miss is collecting quarterbacks, but they collected all these quarterbacks just to keep Jackson Dart as their starter.
Yep.
If Ole Miss is the real deal, that could be a tricky game for Georgia, because they get them right before that huge Tennessee game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a tricky game. Ole Miss is good, man. Like I enjoy watching Ole Miss play. I like watching Lane Kiffin operate an offense. I really just like watching them play. They're a fun team, and they're good. They're a dangerous team. But again, they're a team that you pounce on them, things can fall apart there. So,
excellent.
Coach, we've been peppering you with questions.
Keep them coming, man.
Put yourself in the shoes of a listener. There's 2 random strangers that they don't know anything about. Ask me and Matt one question in the role of your listener.
In the role of all right, first time, long time. Okay. This is going to be hard. Okay. What do I ask you two? What do you think? Okay. So
what do you think that they think that you think would be asked?
Yeah. What questions would you think that they think that I would anticipate them anticipating me asking you?
And now we have entered the inception portion here of the Georgia Dogs podcast.
Absolutely. No. Okay. So you look at Georgia's schedule, and you look at some of the East opponents. You've got Devin Leary at Kentucky. You've got Matt's Graham Mertz at Florida. You've got Spencer Rattler at South Carolina. Of course, Tennessee is, they're now in the upper echelon. They're back in the upper echelon of the conference. On Georgia's schedule, outside of Tennessee and Ole Miss, what road games do you guys think would give Georgia the most fits?
Road games?
I don't think
not road games, just remaining games. I meant to say remaining games.
Remaining games, I've come to respect Kentucky a lot in the past half decade, especially. And I will never take Kentucky lightly, especially with I think they have an upgrade at quarterback. I thought Levis was not good last year. He was
downright terrible, actually.
He was like,
he couldn't do anything in the bowl against Iowa. Oh, he didn't play.
Well,
they played their third stringer.
You know what? I don't want to completely ruin our SEC preview show that we're doing next week on Illegal Motion, but I will say for me, it's Kentucky or Georgia Tech's not going to be back yet, but it's got to be Kentucky, because I don't believe in UAB. I think South Carolina is getting a little bit too big for their britches. Their football team is not as good as their social media team. Their social media team
incredible,
might be the best in the country. I think they've taken the mantle from LSU and is now firmly placed in Columbia, South Carolina. I think they're pretty daggum solid.
And
it's not Vandy, even though, Coach, you will get my Vandy tickets this year, living here in Nashville.
How much do you charge Coach for them?
I make Coach
Coke and a popcorn.
No, it's buffalo chicken dip. I make Mrs. Coach make me buffalo chicken dip.
There you go.
So
it's a good trade-off.
And plus, Josh, that weekend is the Iowa game, and was Wisconsin, Iowa, and I'll be in Madison for it. So
there we go.
So yeah, I guess I'll say Kentucky is the one that would worry me the most, besides the 2 obvious ones.
All right. Well, we're going to get good podcast then, because I would actually take the Gamecocks. And the reason is
that is a home game for Georgia.
Yeah. Well, out of the remaining games, we don't have.
What are we going to say? At the cocktail party's neutral site at Auburn? Yeah. Like, Auburn doesn't scare me at all.
That's the first hostile environment that Carson Beck will face, though. That's the only thing that I know, but
Peyton Thorne is starting for Auburn, dude. Peyton Thorne is starting for Auburn. He was trash at Michigan State. He's going to be even way worse against the ACC. Against the SEC.
Here's why it is South Carolina. Georgia gets to have a snooze cakewalk against UT Martin, and then a cupcake.
We're blacking out that game.
Cupcake against Ball State.
That was supposed to be Oklahoma.
Yeah, so they're going to be untested.
Very much so.
And then they get South Carolina.
We're going to kick a lot of field goals to get Jared Zirkle ready for that game.
South Carolina opens with a pretty solid Tar Heel team. Mm-hmm. They'll get to figure out their pass defense pretty quickly against Drake May. And even if they lose that game, say it goes horribly wrong for them, they get completely embarrassed. They then get to host Furman.
The Mighty Paladins.
And figure out all the stuff that went wrong against North Carolina. So the Gamecocks have a genuine test against the Tar Heels. And, it's not a road game. It's a neutral site game in Charlotte. It'll be well attended by both schools. But they'll have the experience of going to a different city, staying in a different hotel. They'll get some of that road game experience and against a decent opponent. So, just in terms of like battle testedness, South Carolina will be more so than Georgia.
That's fair.
We'll still probably lose big time.
That's fair. I mean, South Carolina always has the capability of getting 50 burgered by Georgia, like they did last year, where it was all. Do you remember the hype around that game last year?
I do.
Spencer Rattler.
No, I was getting ready for Iowa State.
Heisman hopeful, and Stetson Bennett just goes in and just 55 burgers him. I think he left some dude's jock strap. Like he juked him so hard. Like he just. I think he left his like knee joint over here and his like ankle joint on the 5, and like his wrist was over there in 10 yards deep in the goal line. Like I think he shook the dude so bad all his extremities just exploded. I mean, it was bad. So yeah, I don't know. Like that game, because it's the second game of the year or third game of the year. It's always the first conference game that we play. That game always scares me. Some years it's like, why was I even afraid? And other years it was like, holy cow, we're terrible. Like, and some of those years was just like, holy cow, we're terrible. And some of those years were like the Spurrier years were like, oh God, he's got South Carolina going, man. Like he's got them doing something here. This is not an easy game, but I don't know. Like I think South Carolina's over their skis a little bit right now.
Okay, Coach. Then I guess last question here before we wrap up from me. Last year, Brock Bowers had 9 carries for 109 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Love it, dude.
Well, Brock Bowers.
He'll be the leading rusher in a ball game at some point.
So will he be the leading rusher in any ball game? B, will he get more than 3? Like 3 rushing touchdowns is a lot for a tight end. Will he have more than 3 rushing touchdowns this year? And how many total rushing yards will he have? Give me Brock Bowers' finished rushing stat line for the year.
I think he gets 4 because we play some cupcakes, and he'll take a jet sweep to the house in 4 of those games. The fact that we're running jet sweep, under center jet sweep to a tight end is ridiculous in and of itself. I think he'll have, I don't know, $125, $130 on the ground. He'll score 4 touchdowns. Like he'll get down there in a tight red zone. He'll score like a 10-yard jet sweep.
I mean, he averaged more than 12 yards a carry last year and 14 yards a carry as a freshman. So
one of those, I think one of those jet sweeps was a significant one. I think it was one against Kent State, I believe. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, I think it was the first touchdown against Kent State. Took a jet sweep like 65 yards to the house. I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? This is bad. Like he did that to Vanderbilt too.
Well, I've got a bold prediction. After years of hearing run the damn ball, Mike Bobo is going to give Bauer 30 touches against UT Martin. He's going to have 250.
Just going to line them up in the I formation, just pound the rock, man. Get the ball to your best player.
Well, Bowers did have a 75-yard touchdown run against Kent State last year, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns against Kent State last year. So that's he also had a 2-yarder.
Too bad we can't play Kent State again to get some.
Kent State's going to be so bad this
year. They're
going
to be really bad.
Like they're not like that's not a helpful game for the Dogs. Like the Dogs schedule, Corey, I love.
I mean, but is Ball State a helpful game?
No, that's the thing. Like none of these games are helpful games. Like
no,
it is a piss.
Are you doubting the Fighting Men from Muncie?
I am. I'm doubting the fighting David Lettermans.
Yes, exactly. The fighting Lettermans.
This schedule. I mean, it was originally supposed to be Oklahoma, and that the whole conference realignment thing screwed that one up. But because I think it wasn't necessarily this year's game. It was the fact that the return trip, we couldn't make the return trip because it originally was supposed to be an out of conference return trip like 2 years later. And they're like, nah, they're going to be in conference then. So we're just going to cancel the series and wait till you wait.
Could have had one of those awkward in conference, but not a conference game.
Yeah, they couldn't agree to play at a neutral site, or they just couldn't do the terms, so they had to cut it. And Ball State was the only one that was willing to pick up the phone and take this game
to get paid enough for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What was the check for that? $1.5 million, $2 million, something like that.
Probably 1.5. If I would guess. Yeah, it's probably something stupid.
All right, excellent.
Well, that's gonna wrap us up here. I know, Matt. I'm a teacher and I'm hanging on by a thread. So you're probably hanging on by a thread. And Josh, I think have y'all started school yet?
Oh, it's PD week, and so we had a team building activity.
Trust fall?
No, we rode some buses and went to Notre Dame's campus to walk around.
Oh, that's right. You almost bought me something.
I know. I wanted to buy you a Play Like a Champion.
If you would have got that for me, I would have put it up on my wall.
I know your number one team are the Dogs. I mean, that's a given. I know your number two team's the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, number two teams.
And I know
Yellow Jackets.
No, Notre Dame.
Three's the Gators.
No, number three's the Irish.
Number three's the Irish. Number four is USC.
Wait, where did the Vols fall into all of this?
They got bumped down to number 5.
Come on,
Thanks to Georgia Tech, they got bumped down to number 5. Yeah.
Come on, don't kid. He doesn't like the Volunteers.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, this is
all right. Well, thanks for having us on, and
I'm glad.
Hope Israel's back and strong and good to go for your next show.
He will be. He's just getting used to the kids being back at school.
When does your season start?
We start tomorrow as we record tonight. We start against Union City. We travel to Union City. And if you know where Union City is, I'll be impressed.
It's in the tip of Tennessee. It's in the very, very upper tip in the triangle.
Josh, you could actually come watch this game, and I don't think it'd be that much of a trip for you.
Yeah, it's up there in the northwest corner of Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm like
the opposite.
I'm like damn near in Illinois. I'm like right there. I'm closer to like that game where we'll be tomorrow night will be closer to St. Louis than it is Nashville.
Well,
pretty crazy. So yeah, that's where we start. And Israel's going to be defending his state championship. I think they don't play till next week though. I think they start a week after us. I think they open with Bleckley County or Appling County, something like that. He's defending state champion down at Ware County. So his team is actually, so get this before we let you go. His team is actually the Gators, right? They're the Ware County Gators because they're in the swamp. It's probably one of the most appropriately named schools out there because they're in the swamp. They're actually in the swamp. So they're the Gators. And so he posted some pictures of like his kids at like their picture day. And they had like his daughter had like the little, she's like 3 years old. She had like the little Gators cheerleading outfit on, and his son had like the Ware County jersey. It said Gators on it, but the colors are green and gold, right? So he tweets a picture of it and he said, "Can't wait for them Friday nights." And you know what like the first 3 comments were?
Florida fans.
No, they were like, "Cute kids, but I didn't know you were a Gator fan," or something like that. They're like thinking he was a Gator fan. And he was like, "It's not even the same color."
They could have all 3 been colorblind. You never know.
And I've said Friday nights. That was the other clue.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway there.
Unless Florida's going to be playing on a bunch of Friday nights.
That's the only night that
the ACC
that Mertz plays well.
God,
that's also true. As someone who's watched every snap of his collegiate career, I can say that with unless it's against Illinois. Well, let's say it's his home opener against Illinois. Yeah, it's not.
I hope to God that game was played on a Friday. We'll make the
It
joke
was during
even better.
it was during the COVID season, so like there was just like no like days and time had no concept. It was November.
He's only good when there's a global pandemic and no one in the crowd.
Yeah, that's about right.
And it's the opener, and like no one's practiced yet.
Georgia, coach, like the Dogs are gonna have like 6 interceptions, or like 6 There's gonna be 6 turnovers by Graham Mertz in that game. It's gonna be.
Is he going to be able to throw the ball enough to get us 6 interceptions? He's going to be sacked a ton.
He's gonna fumble a lot.
Yeah, like I think he's going to just.
That's why I said
he's going to be getting ragdolled.
That's why I said 6 turnovers.
I don't even think he's going to throw any interceptions because he get ragdolled.
Yeah, we'll see.
Knock him out of the game. It'll be Jack Miller throwing passes halfway through that game.
I mean, oh god,
I don't think Graham Mertz makes it to the Georgia game.
Ooh, there's a fun prediction to end on.
I don't think he does. I really don't. Like,
all right,
it's going to be a rough go. I really don't think he does. And I think you would agree. But hey, like I said, we are the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. Follow us at Believe in Dogs on all social media. Follow me at Coach Burton 36. Go check out Israel Troupe at TroupeStar28. You can follow my 2 friends here at Perko and Josh Cook at Big10andcounting.com. If you're interested in Big Ten football, I've always said on all of my shows that if you want to follow a Big Ten team, you should follow the Wisconsin Badgers. So that's my Big Ten team in honor of my man right here, Matthew Perkins. So we hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, like, find us, stick around. Follow us on YouTube for all the great content that's about to come with me and Israel as we go throughout, as we navigate this season, this 2023 season, and in quest of a three-peat. So for Matthew Perkins and Josh Cook, I'm Corey Burton. We will see you back here next week. And until then, as always, you guys know the drill. It's Go Dogs.
I'll say it for you tonight, Coach. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Sing 'em.
Do you believe?